this is Cat's Diamond Painting. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've joined me here before. I'm here today to do a kitten chat. I'm kitting up my next project, which is this Cute as a Button by Randal Spangler at Diamond Art Club. I bought this in their Black Friday releases, so I got it for a really good price. And I'm still in a bit of a run of working on smaller kits, just because I fancied a few more completions than I had last year. So I've done a couple in the past few weeks, really nice small kits, and so enjoyed getting through them quickly. And now I'm going to try this one. So whilst I'm getting myself set up, just as a reminder, when I do these kind of chatty videos, which I haven't for a while, so I've got quite a lot to catch you up on. Not sure how much I will get through today, in fact. I might have to plan to do another one soon, because I think my last one was like, I don't know, right at the start of January or late December or something crazy like that. Anyway, when I do these chatty videos, if you have any questions for me, do feel free to pop them in the comments below. And what I will do is next time I do one of these chatty videos, I will come back and go over those. So it could be questions about me, and you know, you're welcome to ask anything. I reserve the right to not answer if it's very personal. But yeah, or diamond painting, or just anything really. So yeah. Right. So, how many colours have I got in this one? I don't remember. 45, so not too bad, and this shouldn't be too long a video, unless I've got some horrible static, because I haven't prepared, as you can see. Right, let me get this out of the bag. I'll whiz through that, so you don't have to deal with all the horrible crinkly noises. Okay. Right, what do I need to do? I'm all in a tiz. I haven't got myself set up for this very well. And I haven't set up my lights because it was a beautiful sunny day outside and I thought it was unnecessary. And now the sun has just gone behind a cloud. So I hope it's not going to be too dark. But to be honest, I don't have time to set them up because I'm off to the osteopath in a bit. So I need to get this done and then I'm out of here. So hopefully it'll be okay, but apologies if the lighting is kind of going in and out a bit. Right. So I've got my colour stickers ready. I'm going to be using this storage case, which I haven't used before. I can't honestly remember where I got it. I think it was one of the kind of budget sites. But yeah, it's pretty. And I thought that this would be nice to use. So let me get my stickers in place. And yeah, let's catch you up. So yeah, as I say, I don't think I did a chatty video in all of January. So quite a lot has happened really, because January was a big month for us with birthdays and whatnot. It started with us all being a bit under the weather. So I don't know, we all had a cough and sort of slight sniffles, but not a lot else. And to be honest, we were mostly okay. No one felt very ill or anything. We were testing in case, and it didn't appear to be COVID. But we all felt fine. It was dragging on for ages and ages and ages. And then, after a couple of weeks of this, my husband started to sound really crackly in his chest. And he's not someone that's ever had problems with that before. You know, he doesn't have asthma. He's never had anything go to his chest before. And it got to a point where he was feeling really quite restricted for breath, and just very aware of it. And in fact, what happened in the end was one night he got so worried that he was on the out of hours website at about 12 o'clock on a Friday night. So I mean, if you're not British, and even parts of Britain have different systems. In England, which is the part of the UK that I live in, you can contact out of hours either by phone or by the website, and you plug in some details about what's going on, and then they sort of triage you and generally have a nurse call you back to work out what you need. So we did this thinking, well, they're not going to call back for hours, are they? Because, you know, the hospital system's rather under pressure. But they actually called back within about half an hour. And the nurse listened to him, asked a few questions and said that he should go and get checked out. So then he went down to the out of hours doctor's surgery. I think he had an appointment at sort of 1:20 in the morning. And they saw him and he did have bronchitis, it turned out. He had a very crackly chest. So they put him on antibiotics, although they said it was probably viral. They said they couldn't rule out needing antibiotics, so they would do that to be on the safe side to, you know, make sure he didn't go downhill further, given the state of his chest. So yeah, it was a bit. I said to friends at the time, it really unnerved me because my husband is not someone who complains if he's ill. Like, absolutely the opposite. In fact, it's a struggle to get him to admit that he's not feeling well when sometimes he really should, you know, take it easy and give his body some rest. So the fact that he was unnerved enough to go to the doctors in the middle of the night, I was then really freaking out that he felt ill enough to do that. I mean, we've been together 21 years and I only remember him going to the doctors once. I'm sure he's probably gone a couple more times and I've forgotten, but it's not a common occurrence. So for him to feel ill enough to do that in the early hours of the morning, I was thinking, oh my gosh, he must be really ill to feel that bad. So we're quite relieved in the end that it was just, you know, bronchitis, and within a few days on the antibiotics, or, you know, just a few more days of time, whatever did the job, he was much better. Although it's now kind of a month on pretty much, and he's still coughing, but in a much less troubling way. So yeah, we had that going on. I lost my voice a few times, so I was struggling around filming videos. There might have been a few gaps and shorter videos than I originally planned in that period, but we were mostly okay. And then January the 11th was my 40th birthday. I did mention it was coming up on previous WIP'n'Chats and just sort of said how I wasn't wild about it. I didn't feel that good about turning 40. It felt like quite a turning point, I suppose, mentally, between, I don't know, I suppose 30-something sounding quite young in my head and 40-something just sounding quite a bit older. But actually, when it came to it and the big day came, I felt, you know, kind of fine once it was all done. It was the anticipation that made me a bit unhappy. But yeah, obviously it's not a big deal, and 40 isn't old or anything. Oh dear, look at that static. I'm just going to get some dryer sheets for any that are like this. Okay, so where was I? My birthday. Yeah, so once the day came round, it was, you know, whatever. It is what it is. And my husband didn't have to work, which was nice. And obviously I'm self-employed. I just have the Etsy shop, so I wasn't planning to work on my birthday. No chance. So we had the day off together, which was really nice. We went into town for a little wander around. And my husband had said to me a few days before my birthday that what he wanted to get me for my birthday was a ring. I'm not much of a kind of, I don't know how to put it. I'm not very into things like jewellery and makeup and that kind of thing. I think mostly through laziness more than anything. So I don't really go in for that kind of thing a lot. But one thing I have always loved is rings. As you notice, I tend to wear a few rings. So he knew that if he wanted to get me a sort of special birthday present that I could keep for a big birthday, that a ring would go down well. So he spoke to me a couple of days before and said, look, sorry, it's not going to be a surprise, but I want to check what you want to do about this. I would like to get you a ring for your birthday. Do you want me to choose it, or would you like to choose it? And I said, you know what, I think I would absolutely love that. And I think given that if you get me a ring for a special birthday, I'm then going to just wear that for the rest of my life, that I would like to choose it. So then that became the plan for my birthday, which was just really nice to go into town, have a poodle round together. You know, I'd looked on some websites and found some rings that might suit within budget and all of that kind of thing. And then we ended up, I was quite set on a ring from one place that I really liked, but we thought we'll just check round the rest of the places, and we ended up going into a place called the Covered Market in Oxford, where we live, that has lots of little independent shops, and there was an independent jeweller's in there, and I saw this ring in the window, and yeah, I I thought, oh, I'd like to try that on. So we went in, and I remember we were waiting for ages to go in because it was this teeny tiny shop. There wasn't really room for more than a couple of customers to be in there. So we waited outside, and I was thinking, oh, is it really worth waiting? You know, I like the ring, but I also like that other ring. Do I like this one anymore? But then we got to go in, and I put it on, and suddenly I was like, ooh, hang on, I think this might be the one. So yes, I got that for my birthday, and I was really happy with it, that I get to have this beautiful keepsake present that I can always treasure, and also that, you know, my husband knows me well enough to know that I would really love having a ring, and that, you know, he did check with me and knew there was a good chance I'd want to choose it myself, because I am fussy. I would have loved anything he'd chosen for me, but yeah, I did enjoy being able to choose it myself. So then, as we were in town, we went and had lunch. I think we went to a place called, I think it's called Mowgli's, and it's a sort of tapas style food in Indian style street food. So you go and you order a few small plates rather than just one big meal. So we did that, and that was really nice. And they gave me a free birthday brownie. We were just leaving at the end. And the waitress came over and said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't think you were leaving that quickly. Can you wait just a few more minutes? We've got a birthday brownie coming for you. And we were like, oh, okay, that's very kind. But how did they know it was my birthday? And we were sat there for ages trying to work it out. Like, are they mind readers? And then in the end, we remembered that right when we sat down, my husband had said, you know, what are you having to drink? You're just having a Coke. And I said, do you know what? It's my birthday. I'm going to have a glass of wine. And they had taken that and just decided to bring me a birthday brownie. How nice is that? And then in the evening with my son, we then went over to a different part of Oxford to have a Chinese meal, which was very lovely too. Well, I say it was very lovely. I actually had a recurrence of my stomach issues that I think I mentioned in my last chatty video, that this was a problem over Christmas, and it has been an ongoing problem, which, I mean, I'm going to leave that story for later, because if I kind of get out of the order of my thoughts, if I get out of I'm talking about my birthday, then I'll get lost and never cover everything I want to. But yeah, it came back around my birthday and caused me issues. So it actually spoiled my birthday meal, which was a real shame. But it was still a lovely day. And then the next day after my birthday, my parents came up, because on the 13th, on the Saturday, my husband and I were having a party, because it was actually my husband's 40th birthday as well on the 22nd of January. So because both of us were having this big birthday within a few days of each other, we decided to have a party. So all my family and all his family and, you know, various friends were coming up. And the 12th of January is my dad's birthday. We like to pack them in my family. So my parents came up early, and then we had a night out in Oxford for my dad's birthday, which was really lovely. We went to a couple of pubs, because that's what my dad loves to do when he comes in. And it was nice, because, you know, we hadn't been out in Oxford for years. And we went to Pizza Express, and, you know, we had a really nice evening. My parents were staying in a little B&B just around the corner from us, and it was all lovely. So then the Saturday was our party, and I was in stress mode. I hate organising things like that. So yeah, it was as low-key as you can possibly organise these things. You know, we'd found a nearby pub that would host us, or let us have the party there rather. They weren't going to charge us any fee for holding it there. You know, they were going to make money off the fact we were obviously going to bring people in on a Saturday in January. It might have been quiet otherwise. And we were able to get our own caterers in, because the pub didn't have a kitchen. So all we had to organise really, once the time and date and everything was sorted with the pub, was the caterers. And I was still in such a stress, you know, thinking about everyone coming up, what's going to go wrong, who's not going to be able to come, are the people who say they're going to come going to come? just everything. It was getting the better of me. I'm not good with this kind of thing. But it actually went super smoothly and was really good. The only flies in the ointment were a couple of people who I would have loved to be there who couldn't come. My sister was quite poorly the week leading up to the party, so she and her husband couldn't make it. And another good friend had some health stuff going on and wasn't able to come up either. But most people who were planning to come did in fact come, which was just, it was so nice, you know. I had some really good friends travel to come with us. You know, one of my very best friends who lives in Nottingham came down with her husband and daughter, and they stayed in our house. So we had some nice time with them. And it was just so nice. And, you know, my parents were there. My brother and his fiance came up. My other sister and her husband and one of her children came up. My husband's family came, and just, you know, loads of friends. And, oh, it was so nice. And it was this really fun sort of melding of worlds, you know, and everyone was chatting and getting to know each other. And, you know, friends that I have had for years that mean a great deal to me, but had never really met my family because we don't live in the same places, all chatting away, getting on really well. It was lovely. And the catering worked out really well. You know, we had like a cold buffet type thing. And we'd never used the catering service before because, you know, we don't generally have any need for those kind of services, but it was all exactly as described, turned up when it was supposed to. Everyone enjoyed it. It pretty much all got eaten apart from a few sandwiches, because that's the other stress with things like that. You know, how many people do you cater for? And it felt like it was judged well. So it was a lot of fun. And in retrospect, I'm so glad we did it because it went so well. And then obviously a little while later, it was my husband's birthday. It was quite low key because his birthday was the Monday and it was the Friday night just before that he had been worried enough about his chest that he'd gone to out of hours. We'd spent the evening with our good friends, our neighbours, doing a murder mystery pack, in fact, which was really fun. Very enjoyable, although my husband was obviously quite quiet because he wasn't feeling great, and I didn't realise how bad he felt because he doesn't ever say. But when we came home, that's when he was like, oh, I don't feel right. I am quite freaked out now about my breathing, and called out of hours. But anyway, we'd had a nice evening beforehand. So by his birthday on the Monday, he was feeling quite a bit better. As I say, I don't know if it was antibiotics kicking in or just time or whatever. I think him just accepting he was properly ill for once and couldn't just sort of stubborn his way out of it helped. Because it meant that he then took it easy. And normally if I'm like, you need to rest up, you're not well, he's like, I'm fine, mind over matter. So yeah, just the fact he was taking it easy probably did help quite a lot. So his birthday came round, and again, neither of us were working. My son was in school. So I got my husband for his birthday a trip for the two of us to take in June, and we booked it on that weekend, so it was sorted by his birthday. He is very into wild swimming. Well, not so much wild swimming because you can't trust the rivers and lakes and seas around the UK anymore. Not getting into that one, but people who live here will know what I mean. But he swims a lot in a lake nearby that's it's privately owned and it's used for this purpose, so the water is kept clean. So he swims there, and he just likes cold water swimming and that kind of thing in general. And it's been a thing he wanted to do for ages, to go to the Lake District and do some swimming in the lakes up there. So I've booked to take the two of us away to do that for a weekend. And my son will go to his grandparents. And then wanted him to have a couple of things to open, so we also got him some bits and bobs. My son got him some darts, because the two of them are very into darts at the moment. And I got him a new puzzle cube. He really enjoys those. And what else did I get him? I did get him something else. Oh yes, I had a sort of collage thing made with pictures of us from through the years, a sort of family history thing. I wonder if it's near enough that I could show you. No, it's not. Never mind. I probably don't want to do that anyway, because I don't tend to put my son's face online that much. And if I do, it's just, you know, on my private Facebook. But yeah, so he seemed to like all of those. And then on his birthday, the two of us drove out somewhere for lunch. You know, it's a common theme of what we do on birthdays. So we went to a farm shop that he'd heard good things about. There was a little drive away sort of into the country. So it was, you know, part going for lunch, part just getting out in the country and having a nice bit of time out there. And it was very nice indeed. And then we picked my son up from school, which he wasn't expecting. So he was a bit surprised, because normally he walks part of the way home and we meet him halfway. We picked him up and said, right, we're going to play darts, because, as I said, him and my husband are very into playing darts at the moment, and my husband wanted to use his new darts. So we did that. We went over and, played darts for a while. Then my son had some football training, so we all went along to that together. And then after that, we drove over to Abingdon, which is a nearby town, not very far away at all, to go to a Mexican restaurant, which was, of course, my husband's choice, because he really, really enjoys Mexican food. And he'd heard good things about this place, and it was very nice. You can tell we like our food. All of our birthday plans were heavily based around food, weren't they? So that was our birthdays, and it's only 2 days and the party day really, but it did sort of feel like it dominated the month, because there were a couple of weekends taken up with party stuff, birthday stuff directly, and then the other ones I think we were sort of recovering from all the rest of what we'd done. Oh dear, I need some baggies for some extras that won't fit in. So yeah. And then, well, I suppose, as I've already mentioned it, another thing that might make sense to get into is my stomach issues. So I mentioned that I had felt a bit ill through Christmas. Ill maybe, well, yeah, I suppose I did feel ill. I had a lot of stomach issues. I was feeling sick a lot. I was feeling just uncomfortable generally in, you know, that sort of part of my body. Struggling to eat, struggling to enjoy food, feeling quite bloated and all of that kind of thing. And I came home after Christmas and got myself some good probiotics and some peppermint capsules and that kind of thing. And that seemed to take me back to normal again. So I thought, woohoo, I fixed it, you know, clever me. And I stopped taking omeprazole, which I had been taking at Christmas, because I thought it wasn't necessary anymore. And then, as I mentioned, on my birthday, it suddenly came back and like totally spoiled my birthday meal, which I really wasn't able to eat. And then after that, it was quite up and down again. So if I took a good amount of omeprazole, I would be okay. And I mostly got through things like my dad's birthday and the party like that, and using like peppermint capsules and that kind of thing. But it you know, it was back. So at this point, I made a doctor's appointment. And so I went in for the doctor's. And I'll just put, nothing bad has happened. At the end of it, everything's fine. But I'll just put a slight sort of content warning on that in the next bit of time, I will be talking about the potential of scary illnesses, which has turned out to be okay. So I went to the doctor's and went through everything, and she checked me over and said, look, I think that what you have is dyspepsia, which I've since looked up, and it's basically a fancy term for a form of indigestion. But that is a diagnosis of exclusion. So we say you've got that if we check out other things and you don't have those. So we're going to do this test, that test, you know, so I've done various different tests. And amongst those was some very comprehensive blood tests. And then a day or two after I had the blood test done, the doctor rang me and she said, look, I don't want you to worry. I'm not particularly worried because there are lots of different things that this could mean. And I don't think that this scenario is likely. But there is one of the blood tests that you've taken has come back as abnormal. And when that blood test is abnormal, it can be a marker for ovarian cancer. I was like, oh, okay. That's, you know, not what I was expecting. And the symptoms that I was having as well, like when you look up ovarian cancer, a lot of the symptoms are those sort of indigestion-y, dyspepsia type symptoms. And often there aren't many early symptoms, so the mildness of symptoms doesn't necessarily reassure you that much either. So she said basically that, so I asked about the actual amounts, and I think, I mean, I'm probably going to misremember now, but say, for example, I think it was something like a normal amount of this, a normal figure for this blood test result, high end of normal would be about 38, and mine was 56. Or something like that. And she said, you know, for context, like generally, it's when it's more like 70, 75 that we get quite worried. And there's lots of other things it could mean. But given, you know, the way it ties in with some of the symptoms you've had and that kind of thing, I want to send you for a scan to rule out ovarian cancer. And I took it pretty, I mean, I took it as she said it, you know, I trusted her word that, that it was very unlikely and she was being cautious. You know, she said another doctor might have just, you know, told you to have another blood test in a few weeks, but I just want to be cautious and send you for that scan now, which I really appreciated. You know, our health service is very stretched and I got looked after very well and very promptly. So I said, okay. And then I came off the phone and I wasn't that worried because she'd been very reassuring. And then the more time went on, the more I got a little bit freaked out just because, you know, I've never had a scare like that before. And I didn't know what to make of it. And I Googled, as you do, even though you shouldn't. And it wasn't terribly reassuring because of all the stuff about how it can be, you know, very low symptoms before you get a diagnosis. And a lot of the symptoms I had been having did fit. So I was getting quite freaked out. I told my family and they were sort of concerned but reassuring. And it was only after everything was okay that I realised they'd all been freaking out. But I was so lucky because the doctor called me on the Wednesday to say this and said, we'll get you scanned in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The following day, I got a call from a nearby clinic that does scans saying, we've got availability for tomorrow. So the Friday afternoon, I went in and had the scan. And obviously, as I've said, you know, there is no problem in the end. Everything was absolutely clear on the scan, which was a humongous relief. But yeah, even though it was only a couple of days, I did feel quite freaked out that week and not my normal self. You know, I wasn't really able to get much work done because I was just like all in my head. And yeah, my heart goes out to everyone that has these kind of scares and it takes a lot longer to get to the resolution point, or, you know, even worse, they don't get the news I had that everything was clear, because it was, yeah, it was scary just, you know, having them say that word to me. So I'm so grateful that I was looked after so well and that at the end of it, it was okay. So now where I am is I've still got one test to do, which is a breath test to check for a particular kind of bacteria. And I have to have a couple of weeks off the omeprazole first, which I haven't been able to do so far. But I'm hoping once this current flare-up stops that I can manage to do that. I've got to have repeat blood tests to check what's going on and see if that figure has come down, which might indicate it was just something hormonal or that I'd had a virus recently, which I kind of knew I had a virus recently of some sorts because of the cough that I mentioned. Or another possibility is that I just run high, because some women do. And there was no baseline on record for me, so it might have been that that was absolutely normal for me. So we'll do that, and then if everything is all fine, then we proceed on the basis that it is dyspepsia. And I basically have the tools that I need to handle flare-ups of it, which is, you know, omeprazoles, good probiotics, peppermint capsules, and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, that's, you know, one way to see in your 40s with a new big health scare. And I'm just so grateful that I didn't have to stay freaked out for very long. Wow. It's quite weird talking about it. I wasn't really sure if I would feel like I wanted to talk about it, because I'm very conscious that it could be a very sensitive topic for some people, that a lot of people will have experiences of things like this with it going in a very different direction. And also, of course, it's very personal, but then ultimately, I suppose I want to make the point that I put off getting checked for the kind of indigestion type symptoms for a while, because I thought, oh, I'm just being a bit of a wimp, I can manage it at home and stuff. And actually, the very symptoms that I had could have been an indicator for something like ovarian cancer, which often doesn't give you many clues until it's already getting quite advanced. So yeah, get yourself checked out. If you have any concerns about any part of your body, as soon as you can. It was eye-opening. So that was my January. There were other things that I did as well. I had a very lovely friend come and visit me. She is someone I know through the diamond painting community, she's actually the one who was going to be able to come to my party and then was unable to. And yeah, she came up for the day instead a couple of weeks later, and we had a brilliant chat, setting all the worlds to right. Setting all the world to rights. We went out for lunch, had some really nice pies, and we sat and kitted up outside the sweet shop. We're in Diamond Art Studio together. I did mention on a previous video recently that I've done that, so I'll just say now as well, apologies to the people who, when I unboxed outside the sweet shop from Diamond Art Studio, really wanted me to do a kitten chat for it. I probably would have done at least part of it on camera if I was doing it by myself, but I was doing it with a friend, and then actually it was a lot, you know. I never ever in a million years would have been able to get it in one video without it being largely time-lapsed anyway. And yeah, it was quite nice doing it. Well, it was very nice doing it with a friend in a bit of a more relaxed way. So yeah, it is done now. And I am going to be starting that shortly. She started it and is making great progress through it, and it is making me quite jealous. And will probably make me buck my plan to just do small kits for now. I might make a start on it before getting back to some small kits. But yeah, that was good. And then, what else can I tell you about? Harry is his usual Harry self. He's been up to some chaos, so I could fill you in on that kind of thing. He's been renamed Houdini, so you can figure out what that means. He figured out how to escape through the locked cat door. And we woke up one morning and my husband went down to sort the cats for breakfast, and he came up and he was like, Xander's here, but Harry isn't. I've checked everywhere. I don't think he's in the house. And we were like, well, how is that possible? The cat door's still locked. You know, no windows were open. He's got out. And he had somehow managed to get through. I still don't know what he did. He must have somehow managed to get the prongs that keep it locked down and forced his way through. And then he did the same thing the next morning. So he has accelerated our plan to let him go outside, unfortunately. I will say at this point, because I know from being in cat Facebook groups that letting cats outside can be quite a contentious issue. So I know that some people have very strong feelings on it. And if that is you, you know, I apologise if it upsets you to hear that I'm letting Harry out. What I will say is in the UK, it is extremely normal to let your cats outside. We don't have the kind of predatory animals around, particularly in a city like where I am, that are going to threaten your cat. Yes, there are risks like roads and things like that. But the norm here is that you take that risk as much as you avoid it as much as you can. But the expectation people have in the UK is that cats will mostly roam outside because it's what cats want to do. And Harry was clearly making it very obvious that he was a big fan of going outside, because we're now at a point where we can't actually contain him in the house unless we have the cat door blocked off with multiple heavy boxes. Because the second night that he got out, we had, of course, tried to block it off with a heavy box, and he somehow moved it. And there is no possible way that a kitten of his size should have been able to move the box that we had in the way of the cat door, and yet he found a way. So I'm looking into options to get a 3D printed cover for the cat door, because we do keep our cats in at night, and, you know, if we're away a lot and all of that kind of thing. We only let them out if someone is nearby to keep an eye on, because I'm actually quite neurotic about them. And I would love for them to be happy to be indoor cats, but they're just not. So he's now outside, and then he was stressing me out because all our attempts to keep him in our garden were failing, because he kept finding every little crack. So as of today, he's allowed outside in daytime hours, and he has got a GPS collar on him. So I've been tracking him outside, and he's just sort of in the surrounding gardens, and I'm keeping an eye on him. But he's an absolute menace. He's a law unto himself. And if we try and keep him in, just the craziest things end up happening. Like one time recently, he was up on the windowsill in the kitchen, you know, eyeing up the back door, trying to figure out a way outside. And I was cooking nearby. And he tried to come down, knocked over something into the sink, which made a loud clang and gave him a bit of a shock. Panicked, zoomed across the work surface, knocking over glasses that fell on the floor and smashed, zoomed through the pot of bolognese that I was cooking. Luckily, I had only just added all the passata for the liquid, so it wasn't at temperature yet. And, you know, our first thought was, oh my gosh, his feet. But we checked his feet and they were fine. And, you know, he was showing no signs of them being sore. They were just brown from bolognese. And then he zipped off into the rest of the house. And I was just stood there in the car, and he's like, what just happened? Saying to my husband, help. So we shut all the cats out the room while we dealt with all the broken glass, and I fixed the food, and yeah, suffice it to say that Harry is not going to be easy to live with if we try to keep him inside full time. So I'm hoping that now he's allowed a bit of free time in daytime hours when there's someone nearby to check on him, that it will curb the instinct so he's not constantly trying to get out at times of the day we're never going to want to allow him out, like night time. We shall see. So far it seems to be working, because he goes out and explores, and then he is so absolutely zonked. And he comes in, you know, he's reluctant to come in, but then he just goes to sleep and passes out. Silly little Kitsburger. So yes, he may be less likely to feature on videos, because at the moment, if he's got an option to be outside, he will be. It was chucking it down the other day, and even that wasn't enough to keep him inside. He went outside and did a loop of the garden, and he was like shaking the wet off his paws, and I was like, aha, this is going to put him off. And he did come in. I was like, hey, haha, Harry doesn't like the rain. And he dried himself off, and then he went straight back outside again and didn't come in for ages. Although later that day there was a sudden, like, really abrupt and really intense downpour, and that brought him in. I opened the back door and called his name, and he came zooming down the garden at high speed. So it turned out there was a limit to the amount of rain he would put up with, but it was a significantly higher limit than a lot of cats have. Crazy cat. I adore him though. So yeah, that's most of what's been happening with me that I can think of. There were a couple of other things I was going to chat about if I got to them, but I will save them for another video soon. It's currently half term, so my son is upstairs because I didn't want him sitting around making me self-conscious while I filmed, so I didn't want to make this too long anyway. And as I say, I've got the osteopath soon, but I did just want to do this because I've been meaning to film a chatty video for ages, and my weeks have just been too busy because of things like the health scare and not doing much that week. It's then pushed everything back, and I've just been so busy trying to catch up. I haven't had time to film a kind of longer video. I've just been fitting in shorter ones when I could. But yes, done now. And just a reminder, if you have any questions for me or anything you want to ask me about, please do so, and I will use those as the basis of my next chatty video. But that is it for me now. This one's all kitted up, and I will enjoy starting that in the next few days. I think I might do a thin strip of outside the sweet shop just to get that one started, because I finished a different one last night. And yeah, I think I might do that, and then I'm going to work on this one because I think this one will be super fun. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have, please consider dropping a like on the video. I really appreciate it when you do that. And if you are not currently a subscriber of the channel and you've enjoyed what I've done and would like to watch more content along these lines, please consider doing that as well. And I will hopefully see you again soon. Bye bye.